ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-bum, ba-da-dum-dum. Rum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-ba-dum. Hello, Monica from Australia, and of course, Rona from Ajax, Ontario, and Thomas, hi Thomas, from San Juan. It's my same folks every week. It is so nice to see you all. It's like old friends. Hi, everyone. My name is Joette Calabrese, and I'm here every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to talk to you about homeopathy, teach you what I know, especially practical homeopathy. It really makes a huge difference, my friends, if it's practical instead of classical, which is very complex. And the results are not nearly, as far as I'm concerned, as convincing, shall I say. So, my friends, it's great to see you all. Hey, from Maine, says Margaret. Greetings from Toronto, says Alice. Hello, Diane. Oh, come on, Diane. Delfino from Buffalo. Hi, Diane, old friend of my brother's and our family in general. So nice to see all of you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joette Calabrese, and I'm here to help you. And for those who do and our old friends, welcome, my dear friends. You are the reason I do this. This is my joy. This is my pleasure. This is my nourishment. There was a time, I've said this many times before, when I used to be talking about homeopathy and no one was listening. Hi, Carla from Stewart, not too far from me. Hi, Ben and Jeanette from Utah. It's so great to see everyone coming in. So tonight we're going to talk about a tip that I have especially for allergies. I have to tell you that I've suffered with allergies my whole life, from very early on. At about 6 weeks old, after I got my first, I was riddled with eczema. And it lasted until I hit puberty. And my mother did everything she could think of to do. I won't even go into all of the methods, all the alternative methods, the conventional. She gave up on that early on because she paid attention. That's why she paid attention. Hi, Tara from Western Australia. And so I have to say that I no longer suffer much at all. Now I still have a tad of allergies every once in a while, and it's focused on a couple of things. Well, one main thing, and that is fragrances and makeup. Now I'm wearing lipstick, and I have a little shiny stuff here on my face, and I put a little bit of eyeliner on, but my friends, that's pretty much it. And on a day-to-day basis, I don't wear lipstick. I don't wear anything shiny. I still wear a little eyeliner. And I do try to buy the cleanest that I can possibly find. I've been buying Dr. Hauschka from Switzerland for many, many years. But every once in a while, I think, oh, maybe it would be nice just to have a little. No. It makes me itchy. It makes my eyes run. My nose runs, etc. So, but if I were to do that, and I'm not going to test myself out, but if I were to go ahead and expose myself to something that's bothersome, I can take a homeopathic medicine for it. And I have used arsenicum album, but that's not what I'm going to tell you about tonight. Tonight I'm going to tell you about something else. I'm going to tell you about a remedy that you must have on hand. Even if you don't have allergies in your family, someday it might show up. It's a very important remedy. It's not in most kits, and you can buy it from Boron. And it's called histaminum hydrochloricum. Histaminum, just like histamine. And it tamps down the histamines. Now, that sounds bad, doesn't it? We don't want to tamp things down. We want to uproot, right? Isn't that our whole idea, is to uproot conditions and settle them once and for all? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But there are times when a couple doses of histaminum hydrochloricum in a 30C is what I purchased, but you could buy it in a 6, I believe, and even a 200. But I just have this around and use it only very occasionally. in the last many years, but I always make sure I have it on hand. I've never had an anaphylactic reaction, but for those who can possibly have an anaphylactic reaction, they may want to get something like Apis as well, Apis mellifica, in a 30 or a 200C. Now, I have to tell you that I have an entire course on allergies, because the idea is to uproot them and use this as needed. And this can be very valuable. It can help sort of uproot. The way I see it is it just kind of takes off the top layer a little bit. But if we want to really get to the bottom of it and really get rid of it, then it takes a little more study. And if you go to Joette's Learning Center, you scroll down to Allergic, you will find an entire course on just allergies, and it's all online, and once you own it forever. Yes, helpful for someone with histamine intolerance due to MTHFR genetic snap. Let me just tell you that MTHFR gene is, let's see, what can I say about that gene? No, maybe it's the digging about to find it. That is identified for most people who have allergies. It's almost meaningless. And I'll tell you why. Because before you found out that you had the MTHFR gene, or someone else in your family, or someone that you know or love, before you found that out, you already knew you were allergic. You already knew that you couldn't be around animals, or that you couldn't eat this, or you couldn't eat that. You did not need that gene identified. That's the way I see this. Now, if you want to have your genes identified and to possibly determine that someday you might get the big C, I don't know. I don't think it's a good plan to look for those genes, because I think that method in medicine, in modern medicine, is wanting. It's very much wanting. Because do we need to know what gene it is to know what remedy it is? My friends, what we need to know are the symptoms, the name of the condition, allergies, food intolerances, chemical sensitivities, not what gene may have turned it on or off. I think it goes too far. And what it does is it establishes in the person that they will never get rid of it because it's in a gene. My genes. So now there's no chance that I'll ever get rid of this. Allergies are genetic to a certain degree. Most conditions are genetic to a certain degree. They can be turned on and they can be turned off. And the way we turn them off is to use such things as homeopathic medicines. And I have another medicine too I want to tell you about. But before I do that, I also want to tell you, for people who are really suffering from allergies, I mean suffering horribly, I want you to think about an elimination diet. Now, years ago, I had terrible chemical sensitivities, very severe. I was assigned to my home. I could barely go out. If I got a whiff of perfume, I would be doomed for days with an allergic reaction, including asthma and fatigue, etc. And so I learned about a small group of women in Buffalo, New York, and they were all had very serious environmental illness, much more serious than what I had. And they were going to a doctor in Houston, Dallas. And his name was Dr. William Ray. I looked it up today to see whether or not he was still alive. He died in 2018. And my friends, they became friends of mine, would go to Dr. Ray, and amongst other things, he treated for environmental illness, chemical sensitivities, etc., is he required many of the patients to go on an elimination diet. What was his elimination diet? As I recall, if there's anyone here who knows Dr. Ray better than I do, his name was R.E.A. is his last name, William James Ray. You may know better than I do, but as I recall, and this was back in the 80s, I mean, I think that I learned about him in about 1988, 89, something like that. He required that everyone go on an elimination diet. Now, what did he mean by that? Well, now it's called something different. Now it's called the lion diet, which means that the person eats only ruminant meat and salt and water, and then for say 3 months. And then they determine After 3 months, they add a food back in, or a category of a food back in, something that is an important food. Dairy would be probably not quite ready yet, because I do think that dairy is very important when it's high quality dairy, raw dairy, etc. But I have to say that it is quite inflammatory. Dairy can be very inflammatory, and it can help put on weight. It can keep someone from being able to get past allergies in general. Even though someone hears, yes, but I'm allergic to pollen. Yes, but that doesn't mean you're not allergic to cats or dogs, or certain dairy products, or certain vegetables that have oxalates in them, or lectins, etc. So I'm not saying that you must do this, that one must go on the lion diet to find out all of this, but I want you to know that I've known about this lion diet for a very long time, and I find that it can be very helpful for people who are truly suffering, and what I mean by truly suffering horribly, and until they can get the right homeopathic medicine to uproot it, or to help uproot it on the way, this can be extremely useful. So I just want to share that with you. I think it can be very useful. So histamine 30, and once the person feels the sensation coming on, the breathlessness, the runny nose, the drippy nose, the itchy eyes, the lacrimation, the gut issue, etc., histamine 30, maybe every hour or so, can be really useful. It can also be used prophylactically, so that the histamine hydrochlorocum 30C could be used when you know that you're going to be in a barn where there are horses, and you're going to have a reaction, and you're still using the homeopathic medicines from the course that I teach that are the undergirdings, but you still need this on top. This is a great medicine. Now, the way I've described this in the past is it's like a symphony. The main part of the symphony, the most important part of a symphony, is the string section. It carries the melody, it carries the harmony. It is the strength of the symphony. But every once in a while we hear the haunting sound of an oboe, or we hear the tinkling sound of a triangle, or we hear the funny sound of a sackbut, or we hear a little bit of the brass section. And so this is the mainstay. And we want medicines, homeopathic medicines, such as Sorinum, or Bovista, or Lycopodium, or tuberculinum. Those are our mainstay medicines based on the symptoms and how the condition's presenting. Those are the baseline. But if you're in a pickle, or you don't want to take that course, you don't want to learn more than this, although I would urge you to do so. If you don't want to do that, histamine hydrochlorocum can be absolutely mind-blowing to help people. It's absolutely one of the most valuable, because it's a histamine reaction, right? So for anybody who has allergies, you keep this in your purse. You don't leave home without it, or someone in your family has it. You keep this on you. This can be a lifesaver. It can also be just a calmer downer of the histamine reaction. Now, having said that, I just mentioned that Bovista, Sorinum, tuberculinum, Lycopodium, all of those baseline remedies, all of those string section medicines that are holding the whole symphony together they help uproot. Takes a long time. Often can take weeks, months, sometimes even as long as a year before we actually see a complete shift. One more I forgot to mention, kelp carb, another very important medicine for uprooting allergies. But histamine is at the forefront on top of it all. It's the piccolo, it's the oboe, etc. But we also have another one, and that's Bovista 200C. So if you don't have histamine, or you have to have histamine and Bovista, you decide which one you want to go with. But Bovista is really great for allergic reactions, not just as an undercurrent, but also as a top on the top end, on the oboe end, on the flute, on the piccolo, on the on the brass section. I hope that this is making sense to you, friends. I hope that that you understand that we have these baseline medicines that you need to learn which ones they are the most valuable. But meanwhile, or instead of, if you decide never to go any deeper than this, and you're saying, oh, my allergies aren't that bad, I'm just going to get the Histaminum 30C. Yes, do that. That's exactly what I want you to do. I think we need Histaminum hydrochlorocum 30C in every Walmart. Is that blasphemous? I don't know. Some people find that blasphemous. No, it needs to be in Walmart. It needs to be in every grocery store. It needs to be in every doctor's office. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Some doctors are getting it, but many are not. Bovista is for food allergies. It's also for chemical sensitivities. Bovista is great for food allergies. It's one of our most powerful, but it can also be used for who knows what the allergy is at the time that it happens. Sometimes we have no idea, right? Sometimes we don't have a clue why this person is reacting. Just don't know. But it can be very useful. So you want Histaminum and Bovista 200C. Now, let me just get to some of the questions that you've got here. Oh, thank you for, my staff is writing all these medicines down. Lion's diet, great for my son's Crohn's symptoms. Yes, Susie. Absolutely, Susie. And I will tell you, it sounds so hemming in, doesn't it? It sounds so restricting. But you get some nice beef, some nice lamb. You get some ribeye, and you have that every day, and with lots of butter or ghee. I'll tell you, my friends, it is a relief to just be able to stop and drop the shoulders and not have those reactions that are so severe on a regular basis, or even maybe not so much on a regular basis. Let's see what folks are saying. I used histamine for a baby who had goopy eyes for a few days. It worked overnight to clear up the condition. You're right, Mindy. Very nice. Nice job. One of the Banerjee protocols combines Apis with Histaminum. Yes, you're absolutely right. Apis is for when there's a lot of swelling in the eyes or the lips or the uvula or the throat. When we see that kind of reaction that's swelling, especially watery swelling, that could be threatening to cause anaphylaxis, then we think in terms of Apis as well. What if you don't have IgG allergy to foods but react to many foods because of mold allergies? Do you treat the mold allergy instead of all of these others? An allergy is an allergy is an allergy. We're going by the symptoms. Now the cause, the etiology, the cause of the condition, that it's mold, can be useful. But what's most useful are what are the symptoms? If we have swelling eyes, swelling lips, tongue that's swollen, uvula that's swollen, we're going to be thinking of Apis regardless of whether or not it was from mold, or is from your neighbor who just sprayed the lawn with pesticides, or it was because you had chocolate, or it was because you ate wheat, or. That's what I'm talking. That's why this medicine is so wonderful, because we don't even have to find out whether or not it's from mold, or that it's from an MTHFR gene, or whether or not it's from Lyme an insect bite 25 years ago. We don't need to know any of that. Look at, my friends, look at what the symptoms are. And until you know exactly what to use, start with Histaminum and Bovista. And perhaps if there's swelling of the eyes and the lips and the throat and the uvula, okay, Apis too. Does boron carry tuberculinum bovinum or OHM? Yes, they do. I have a rash on my back of head, which my mom had also, so did it. I inherited from her. I'm taking Bovista 200 and by herself. Do I also take tuberculinum? I can't say whether or not you should take that. I'm sorry. I would have to know more, much more about your case. But if you want to know more, then I urge you to go to Joette's Learning Center, scroll down and go to the entire course on allergic, and there you will find your answers. What about an aversion to eggs and bananas with burping? I would call that, I don't know if I'd call that an allergy as much as I would call it a food intolerance. And then we're talking about some of these same medicines, like Lycopodium, for example. Let's see. I did get Vespa since my last sting. Haven't tried it yet. Dolly, I've used it for acute. Okay, I'm going back up, seeing what else is coming up. I used histamine for a baby girl. I read that already. Okay. Is kefir a dairy issue? A2, whole yogurt issue. Is kefir a dairy issue? I think what you might mean is kefir a problem? Yes, could be if you have a dairy issue. Cheese, I love cheese. Well, hi, Donna. Let me just say something, Donna. Do you know anyone who doesn't love cheese? Think about it, friends. Is there anyone here who doesn't like cheese? It's extremely rare. But cheese is very inflammatory for many, many people. And the more we love it, the more I'm convinced that it might be a problem. Okay, last time I was stung by a wasp, I used a cell salt combo that I don't remember now. It seemed to help just very slowly. So yes, it's probably Ferrum Phos and maybe Natmure. Cheese doesn't like me, says Pat. You're right, Donna. No one doesn't like cheese. Here we go. You're helping each other, and I love it. It's really great. Could one assume swollen tonsils and adenoids are due to an allergy? No, I don't know that I would assume that. It's likely. It's often likely, but it does not necessarily mean that. But a great way to find out is to eliminate those foods that I just discussed. That I didn't discuss. Eliminate foods, all plant matter, all dairy, and go with the lion diet. And if the person's tonsils and adenoids are no longer swollen after 3 months, and it does take that long, my friends, then you can say, I guess it was something that was being eaten. Well, my 7-year-old won't eat cheese at all in any form. That's unusual, isn't it? Will histamine help with heavy throat mucus? If indeed it is based on a histamine reaction. Yeah, it could be. And what you want to think about is that heavy throat mucus occurring after I've had cheese? And I don't mean within minutes. The food that we eat stays in the body on some level or another for hours, days, sometimes even weeks, my friends, which is why I'm saying that if you ever use the lion diet or any elimination diet, you want to go 3 months. Yeah. What about intolerance to milk? You bet. Same idea. Of course, it depends on what kind of milk it is. If we're buying the kind of milk that is ultra pasteurized, disgusting. That's not even food anymore. Sometimes I can't find cream when I like to make desserts for special occasions for my family. And I used to buy raw cream, and sometimes I can get it depending on where I am. And in that case, it's fabulous. But to buy a heavy cream at the grocery store, it's almost always ultra pasteurized, and oftentimes it has lots of questionable ingredients in it as well. Anything for spring allergies? You bet. That's it. Yep, that's an Instagram comment. Yeah, the allergies are allergies are allergies are allergies. It's a histamine response, and that's when we use histamine. Okay, let's see what else we've got. What about irritable bowel syndrome? Well, I have an entire course, Joette's Learning Center. Scroll down to Good Gut, Bad Gut. I talk about irritable bowel syndrome intensely, and I have to say that irritable bowel syndrome is often food related, plant related, plants and dairy. That's why I suggest if someone is really in trouble and you don't have time to learn what I'm teaching you homeopathically, that you would incorporate into this picture as well as the diet, then do consider the lion diet. What about for plants? Allergies, blooming plants, all the same. It's all the same. An allergy is an allergy. If it's a histamine response, then we're going to be talking about histamine. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't use other medicines. There are other medicines. Boron carries allergy medicines, and there are a lot of reputable homeopathic pharmacies that carry remedies that are specific for even your region of the country that can be very useful. But if you don't know that that's the cause, and all you know is that there's some kind of a histamine response, histamine 30 is excellent, and so is Bovista 200. Allergy-Com, thank you, Shauna. Thank you very much. Allergy-Com is produced by Boron. Would histamine work for a skin rash that I have no idea what is causing it? It's possible. It's hard to say. Could the skin rash be from something else? Could it be, there are many reasons for a skin rash. And it depends on where it is, how it's presenting, etc. Dry cough may or may not be an allergy. You're right, absolutely right, Brooke. What about, I already read that. Is colostrum considered dairy? It certainly is. Now, I'm not saying colostrum isn't good, and I'm not saying dairy isn't good, because I raised my kids on raw dairy. I gave them raw milk every single day for a good decade. I made my own yogurt. I made my own kefir. I often made even my own butter. And we used the cream, and I made ice cream from it on a regular basis. So dairy, good quality dairy can be wonderful if you don't have a sensitivity to it, and many do. But it doesn't mean you can never have dairy again. It means that you want to perhaps test it out, see if it makes a difference, and if you feel better from having eliminated it, then we start using the homeopathic medicines to uproot the problem so that eventually the person can start having dairy again. Dust mites, please help me. Same idea. It's all a histamine reaction. Itchy, says Donna. Yes. Would histamine work for a skin rash that I have no idea what it is? Okay, I read that already. Yep. Urtica urens for hives, maybe. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, but skin rash, hives can be considered a rash, but I don't know that that's what Donna's talking about. Urtica urens, yep. Skin rash that's itchy is usually, if you go to Joette Calabrese, itchy skin or itchy or rash, you'll find plenty of good information. And in that case, we look at something like antimonium crude or arsenicum, etc. Urtica urens, says Christine Pulley from Japan. Hi, Christine from Japan. Thanks, Donna. I like meat. That is salt. Let's see what else we've got here. Very itchy and red, poison ivy. And I just wrote about poison ivy just last night. Go to my blog. Go to joettecalabrese.com and go directly to the blog. I just wrote about poison ivy. What will help hives? Histamine has been a godsend, but hasn't completely alleviated hives. Again, you can go to my courses, folks, and get lots of great information. And I'm not trying to keep you from learning tonight, because I want you to learn as much as you can. But I do have a course called Skin the Ugly Truth. Joette's Learning Center. Scroll down, go down to the section on skin. And then I will tell you that for hives, it's Urtica urens, Apis. Those are two of the main medicines for, and in a low potency, 6 or 30 every few minutes if it's really horrible. Yeah, I got terrible rash from mango sap 2 days ago. Wow. That's interesting. Joette, I love you. I love you too, Jen. So excited to see you. Thank you for all of your amazing work and giving. Thank you for saying very kind words. How would you decide between Athusa, histaminum, and Bovista? Well, that's a little more involved, and when I do differentials, it really does take a good amount of time. And let me tell you that will really help you, Katie, to learn the differentials between these medicines is to crack open your materia medica. And you should own a few of them. Different authors write things just slightly differently, and you'll get really great information. And read them, and then read them again, and then read them again, and read each one. Read Athusa, read histamine, read Bovista. But let me tell you this, Katie, if I can leave you with one bit of information, and that is Athusa is pretty specific for dairy and growth that is stunted in a child. Histaminum is great for on the spot, at the top. It's for the oboe. It's for the piccolo. The bottom, underneath that, much deeper than that, is the medicines I mentioned earlier. Calcarb, tuberculinum, serinum, Bovista 2, etc. So you see it depends on those specifics. I won't go into all of them. What will help hives? Histaminum hasn't completely alleviated. No, you might have to go deeper. Even though this is going to work for a while, but you may have to go deeper. You may have to go to those medicines that are the string section. And then again, I've talked about it here and there on Monday Night Live, but I teach it fully so that you really know what to do and how to handle it by going to my course, Allergic. Okay. I use Anovite colostrum and have no problem. I do have a dairy sensitive. That's great. Yeah, there are certain dairy products that many people don't have any trouble with. Joette, great blog and poison ivy. Thank you, Barbara. Oh, hi, Donna. I love your Materia Medica. I can't put it down. That's great. Thank you for saying. But there are other more in-depth Materia Medicas. Mine is really just a quick reference to get you started. I want you to start thinking about more in-depth ones. The more you study this, the better off you're going to be. Let's see. I got a terrible rash from mango. I got that 2 months after having cardiology tests that used that super sticky electrode adhesive tapes. I know that can happen. I still have an itchy red rash there. None of the homeopathic remedies have helped. Yeah, it's that tape has got that, I've forgotten what it's called. There's something in it that can cause trouble. So what you want to do is don't go with it as an allergy, go with it as a skin reaction. So anybody have any ideas? I'm not going to come up with a specific idea for you, Alice. Let's see if somebody else comes up with it. Are homeopathic aggravations common? I want to try to use remedies, but afraid of aggravations. The reason you are afraid of aggravations, my dear, I don't know the person's name because she's coming in from Instagram, is because you've been studying classical. And classical homeopathy scares the bejeebers out of people. Classical keeps people from actually moving along. And that's why I'm here tonight. I'm teaching the practical method. The method that I teach is much faster, much easier, and does not frighten people. And the reason I don't have to worry about aggravations is because we repeat the medicine every day. In some situations, depending on the condition and the medicine, in that particular protocol, we might repeat the medicine every other day. And just as the medicine might be causing an aggravation, which we very, very rarely ever see, it brings it back down again. Classical drove me crazy. I used to be 5 feet 7 inches tall, and it has driven me into the ground, and now I'm only 5 feet tall. That's how much frustration I've had with that method. What Materia Medica do you recommend? I recommend my own. You can go to my blog or my website and find it. But also, my friends, you can also buy, or you can find these online for free. Dr. Boericke, Boericke, and Dr. Boericke, and it's going to come to me in a moment. Phatak, Phatak. Dr. Phatak, Dr. Boericke. Still a little limited in the way they wrote, but very useful books, extremely useful. The ones that is the most replete with the greatest amount of information, that is just voluminous information, is Robin Murphy's Materia Medica. All righty, my friends, it is now 8:33. I do have to dash off. I'm going to my Mighties. For those of you who are in my Mighties group, stay on. For those of you who are not, I'll see you next week. God bless you all. See you then. Take care and stay curious.